Okay, I just got my first cherry drying call for the season. Wasn't quite ready, so I'm a little bit late getting started. I just expected a lot more rain, and I don't know why, but I didn't leave base as early as I should have. So we are off, bringing it up into a hover. We had a little thunderstorm roll through. Everything's good. And it looked like there was another little cell right behind it, but that dissipated before it reached us, so. Sunny. I've got 13 acres and one orchard to cover, which should be a pretty quick job. And then I've got, I don't know, probably about 20, maybe as much as 30 in another orchard across the road from there. Or actually up the road, whatever. And when that's area traffic, helicopter 7534 Delta just departed an off-airport landing zone in Malaga, headed out to the Three Lakes area. I'll be operating just west of Three Lakes.
And when entry traffic, helicopter 345 Whiskey November is at Malaga station. Will be departure momentarily to the south, a low level, Wenatchee.
Is that you, Joe? Guess not. And helicopter 34 Delta is just descending now over the golf course, looking for the other traffic. So this particular orchard, not one of, well, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of wires in it along the edge of two of the blocks, and I was just informed that those two blocks are not included in this year's contract. So that is kind of a good thing. Let me just, let me start up here. I usually start out there, but I'll do that last. I'm kind of thrown off because my usual pattern includes those other two blocks, and those other two blocks are gone. Now next to me here on the right are now not cherry trees. He tore out the old bings, and they were old. Those trees are older than I am. And he put in, I think he did pears, which really surprised me because he doesn't usually do stuff like that. But it's only, it's less than an acre, so. Now the tricky part of here is that I've got these trees that are bordering the orchard, and I don't want to hit them. I gotta get a little higher because these are rainiers. So I tend to give them lots of berth. I fly sideways so that I can see them. And then once I finish up with this area right here, I'll go back and forth up the rows. Looks like somebody's got a little garden growing out here. You could see it almost right under me. Now these are rainier trees, and because they are rainiers, I say higher, because the fruit is more delicate. I've been drying this particular orchard, gosh, I'm thinking 11 years now. This is my 11th season over this one. Out ahead of me, you see where these trees end, and there's some young trees there. That used to be planted with cherries. I'm assuming he planted cherries again. Last year it wasn't planted at all. The year before that I was drying it. But those trees are too young, if there's anything in there actually. So I go every other aisle between the trees, and this gives them some pretty good coverage. I'm looking down, I can see water on the branches. This altitude is a little higher than what I would normally fly, but again, these are rainiers, they're more delicate. So I stay nice and high over them. Now the clutch light will go on and off a little bit during flight. It's got to do with power adjustments. And now the sun is coming into the cockpit, and it's warming me up when I'm facing the sun. So I will eventually reach up and turn on the air conditioning. I gotta remember where the switch is. The thing about cherry drying is you really do need to keep both hands and feet on the controls the whole time you're doing it. So it's not easy to stop and do something else. One of the things that's important to save time is to make your turns over the trees, not to go past the trees, make your turn and come back. It might not seem like a huge difference. I mean, what does it take? 3-4 seconds to make that turn? But when you add that up over a lot of rows, a lot of turns, it actually makes a huge difference. So I start my turn. When I'm over the end of the trees, I turn over the trees and then continue on my way. Whoops, a little sloppy there. And then my speed, I try to keep my speed below 10 knots. Now I'm around 8. Sometimes I speed up in the turns. I gotta slow down again. And I normally try to put some ballast in the front passenger footwell. Usually a case of oil, but I'm such an idiot because I was at the place yesterday where I could buy a case and I completely forgot to buy it. And what that does is it keeps the nose down a little bit more to keep the tail up a little bit more, which reduces my risk of hitting the tops of trees with my tail rotor. That's not really much of a risk at this altitude because I'm pretty high over the trees. And again, that's because they're rainiers. Rainier cherries is just a type of cherry. It's a light colored cherry. Yellow and pinkish, depends on where you buy them, and they have really thin skins. And growers grow them because they get more money for them. So the trees are planted in what the growers refer to as blocks. It's a certain amount of acreage with trees in it, and then what they can do is they can identify to me which blocks they want dried. I don't remember this block number, but the ones that I'm not drying are blocks 1 and 2. And this crazy looking thing I'm just passing, the pole with the fan on top, that's called a wind machine. And I can't hit it. I mean, I can hit it, but I won't want to hit it. I know 2 pilots who have hit wind machines. One of them immediately crashed to the ground, totaled the helicopter. The other one took the blade tips off, which is still pretty amazing that he was able to fly after that. But he still needed a lot of maintenance to get that fixed. So I'm going to continue down here. Going every other would put me right in the same row with this wind machine. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to kind of side saddle over to the side here. Give it plenty of room. The trees close to obstacles do not get dried very well. And then I'm going back to where I should be, which is over here. And then I'm going to continue my every other. I might have to go a little wide because that one blade is sticking out a tiny bit. And I do not go anywhere near those wind machines. When you know 2 pilots who've hit them, you learn your lesson from their mistake. So I'll just side saddle over here and then get back to where I'm supposed to be. Now the trees ahead of us outside this block, they are not only are they not cherries, I think they're pears. Could be apples though, they look like pears from here. But they are also belong to another grower. So they're not even part of this orchard. The orchards are right next to each other out here. I think one of the biggest challenges to new cherry drying pilots is knowing where the orchards are that they have to dry. It's very easy to dry the wrong thing, especially when you're new. I give all my guys maps, detailed maps with the block numbers, and then I also follow that up with a file that I create on Google Maps with the block numbers and the outlines and the shaded areas, and then they are able to see that in 4Flight, or if they use the Garmin version of 4Flight, I don't even know what that's called. So I'm not actually drawing the cherries. What I'm doing is I'm flying over, the downwash shakes the branches, and when it shakes the branches, it shakes the water off the leaves and off the cherries. And then the cherries will, you know, if that's not enough to get them dry, then they will dry a little bit naturally, but that gets most of the water off. It depends on how wet they were. This was a pretty good storm, but it was short. But it wasn't much wind in it, so the trees look wet. I can see the water on the trees as I go over. And the trees beyond me, now in a moment they'll be behind me, those are also somebody else's, I'm pretty sure. And they're either apples or pears. After a while you get an idea for what the trees, the various types of trees look like from the air. Like I know what a cherry tree looks like from the air. I don't really know the difference between an apple and a pear from the air though. If you're really good, you can tell what variety of cherries they are from the air, and I used to be able to do that in some places. The thing that the newbies also don't get is you don't have to fly straight ahead when you're flying. You can fly sideways. So when I make these turns, I mean, it looks like I'm being super sloppy, but what I'm doing is I'm maximizing my time over the trees while I keep moving. So it looks like I'm flying sideways for part of the way by accident, but it's really not by accident. Yeah, this is gonna be, I'm just thinking about what a huge relief it is that I don't have to dry the 2 blocks with the wires in them. I hated doing those. Because you want to do a good job, but man, those wires, they'll eat you right up. Now, if you watched a couple of my videos from this season, you might have seen...
Horizon 2135-8 taxi from terminal.
These are cherries now beyond, but there's somebody else's.
30 Wenatchee traffic.
That radio call was from the local airliner Horizon. We have airline service to our airport. We don't have a tower, so he makes the same kind of radio calls we do. I was saying something else, and of course I forgot what it was. Typical me. And now you're listening to this, and you want to tell me what I was saying, and you can't because... Anyway. The forecast today calls for severe thunderstorms. I was going to say that these are cherries beyond us too, but again, they're somebody else's cherries. Unfortunately, the roads go in a different direction, so it's really hard to make a mistake.
That Cherry traffic Empire Caravan. 8821 is currently 10 miles to the northeast. The overhead left traffic runway 30 and entering.
The other thing that having ballast in the front does for me is that it gives me a much more comfortable cyclic angle. Right now, I'm trying to sit back and be comfortable, but the problem is that I need to move forward, so that's putting me in a less comfortable position. If I had some ballast in the front, oh, watch this tree next to me. If I had some ballast in the front, it would be a little bit better for me. And now I'm finished with this row. I don't want to go through the tree, obviously, and I don't want to go through the area where the building is. So I'm kind of climbing up, and then I will take this up right here. I got a few more rows in this area. Boy, let's hope those roof panels stay on the roof. Looks nasty. So this is pretty short, and because it's short, it's not even worth turning. So I'll just go back and forth sideways on it. And this is the last row here. I'm recording this on 4Flight so you can see my exact path when I'm done with this. So these are the trees here that I don't have to dry, but I do have to whip around to these trees over here.
That Cherry traffic Empire Caravan.
All these houses off to the right
4 miles, 4.5 to the northeast.
are
left traffic runway 30 and entering.
pretty new. I remember when I was landing, I had to take a door off once, back when I was allowed to. Yeah, because it was hot. It gets hot in the cockpit. My other helicopter didn't have air conditioning. Now these are not rainiers, so I can go down to my normal height here. So I'm about, let's see, 17 feet off the ground according to my handy dandy radar altimeter. My skids are about level with the treetops, and I am in them. And in a future flight, I will try to remember to mount a camera in a place where you could really see the trees moving around. But this morning I just didn't have time. I might set that up before I shut it down. Oh, well, I'll shut it down, and I might before I leave the helicopter. So again, every other row on the aisles, I do the aisles. People say, why don't you fly over the trees? I think I get better coverage this way. I think the airflow goes down between the trees a lot better. That's just my theory. And I think I get the trees on either side of me, I think I get them super good. And then the trees beyond them on either side, they get done okay. But then I come around because I skip a row, and I get them really good. So it's basically, each row of trees gets it 3 times. It gets it first kind of mildly, then heavy duty, and then mildly again.
Half mile north now, the overhead left traffic runway 30 and entering. You ready to go, Horizon?
Those are 2 airplanes.
2135, we need another 2 to 3 minutes. We're holding short at 30 at Alpha 1.
Those airplanes at the airport talking to each other.
On the ground, I'll be out of your way in time for you to go.
No worries, Horizon, thanks.
So it's a good example of how by talking to each other, they keep out of each other's way, basically.
German side, Horizon 135.
The smaller plane wanted to make sure that the bigger plane wasn't leaving right away, so he wouldn't be in the bigger guy's way. So from the time that they plant the cherry trees, it takes about 4 years before they start producing fruit enough to actually harvest and get on my schedule. So those trees behind me, they were probably planted either late last year or early this year, probably early this year. And I won't be drying them for another 4 years. Let's see, 2000, maybe 2023 maybe. That'll be the 4th year.
And with that cherry traffic and Park Caravan 8821, we're left base. Runway 30, one at you.
I tell you, without the stress of drying by the wires, this is a very pleasant orchard to dry. Flat, even rows, the trees are pretty even, there's not too many tall stringers, no pollinators. What a pleasure.
8821, left base turn and final 301 at you.
I don't hear any other helicopters on the radio. I heard one earlier. We don't usually talk on the radio though when we're working. Only when we move from orchard to orchard.
We'll be off momentarily.
That's perfect timing. Goodbye, thanks.
So every orchard has a decrepit car or truck, at least one. I just flew right over the top of one of them for this orchard. I think that's the only one for this orchard. Although who knows what's in that barn. Sometimes I fly a tiny bit to one side just so I can look down the road really well.
And we're clear. Have a good flight.
Hey, have a good day. All right.
So I stop up ahead, I'll be stopping before the barn, and I'll finish this section, and then I'll go back and dry the few trees on the other side of the barn. There's a guy out here probably taking pictures of me, or waiting to. Yeah, this is where I landed in this guy's backyard. It wasn't, oh, maybe it was the one over here with the green, with the nice grass, but there was no nice grass at the time.
This is Empire.
Okay, because of the number of rows, I'm gonna not skip a row here. Go down this one. I don't know why anybody would want a lawn that big. Seriously, why do you need a lawn that big? Nope, and as a kid, I wish that kid wouldn't go there. So then there's just these few trees here, and I'll do a little sideways action over them. What happens is as you dry the orchards, you get a pattern. Then once you get a pattern, you're really quick to dry them. So this is it, I'm all done with this orchard. So now I'm gonna move on to another one, which, oh man, I think I've only dried it once. Wenatchee area traffic helicopter 7534 Delta, just finished drying an orchard west of Three Lakes Golf Course. I am headed south from there to start work on another one, up towards Joe Miller Road. Oh my, yeah, that hiller's flying out. I think that's what I was talking about before, that my neighbor with the hiller, he's up there drying. Alright, now I gotta figure out which. So I need block 6, 16, and 8, and I gotta figure out which ones they are. Okay. I think yep, that's one of them. Okay, so I'm gonna descend down here. This is one of them right here. Pretty sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so I want to start in the bottom corner. I always start at the bottom and work my way up. Get my number 952. Okay. I need to keep track of how much time I spend over each orchard, so I need to get the number off my Hobbs meter in between. Some guys will actually take notes, write it down. There's only 2 orchards, so I can remember it. 952. Alright, so I'm starting right here. And I do not know, I think these are rainiers. I think they're the ones we picked last year, so I'm going to stay high. Oops. Now I got a call coming in. I got a call and I got to move out of the way. Hey Brian, I can't hear you. Hold on. No, hold on. Wait. Okay, I got you now. Okay, sorry, my headset wasn't on. Oh, I see you down there. Hey, so what? Am I doing the right one? Okay. 8 and 16, okay, let me look at the map. 8 is this one, right? Which one? This one right here? The one around, wait a second now. More over there, hold on. I didn't, I wasn't the one who did these last year, so wait, 8 and 16. So, alright, let me just look at the map, hold on, I'll get it. 8 is along the road. 8 is the one by the barn. Okay, and then 16 is the one I think I'm right over. Okay, let me do 16 first. Unless you want 8 first. Does it matter? Okay, I'll do 16 first. Alright, bye. Okay, here we go. And that was me. You probably only heard my half of the conversation. But I was with the grower. He's down in the orchard. And I gotta drive this big block right here. Woo! Gotta be careful how I come down. Alright, so this would be block, gosh, I forgot which one it is, but it is definitely one I have to dry. So what I need to do, and if I look at my map, I can see, go a little bit faster here. This is about right. I looked down at my map, they're all shaded colors and different colors, but I have to update my map to actually have the block numbers on it, so it's easier. And then what you're seeing up ahead of me, off a little bit to the right, is a guy with a blower. So what these blowers are, is they use these blowers to spray. Is he coming down this road? Yes, he is, so I'm not going to go over him. They use them to spray chemicals. So what they do when the cherries get wet is they don't put chemicals in them, and so they're dry, and they just blow like fans. And so while I'm drying them from the top, they're drying them from the bottom. So now I'm coming downhill, which is bad because my tail, remember, is already lower than me, and I'm going downhill, so I got to be careful I don't get too low. One way around that is to go sideways, and I'll probably do that in the next round. Go down the hill sideways. It's easy flying conditions today because it's not windy, at least not right now. It's easy for me, but if it was windy, of course it would help the cherries because the wind would do some of my work. And right now in my head, I'm debating whether or not I'll make a video out of this whole flight. And I suspect that I will, and it's going to be long, and boy, if you stuck with me this long, you must really like cherry drying. But I'm hoping to impart a little bit of wisdom along the way. It's the kind of thing that you can like put up on your tablet or your TV or something while you're making dinner, or I don't know. It's not something you really have to watch. Oh, I think I was supposed to go straight up there and I didn't. I think I missed those trees. There's the same block. Alright, let me go back. You can do those trees. Okay. I think I turned where the guy with the blower was. Okay, so I did this one. I did that one. I came up this one. Gotta come down this one. And we'll go down sideways. So now, these cherries are barely starting to get color, so they're really not very susceptible right now. So even though the sun is out, I don't think it's very strong yet. I don't think that these cherries are at high risk. So it's not like super important to get them done super fast, but a little later in the season it will be. But in a little while I'll have more guys helping me. In fact, if I get another guy to move, this guy, his contract wasn't supposed to start for another almost 2 weeks. So he moved it up to be early, start today. And if I get one more guy who does that, then I'm in deep doo-doo. So I'm gonna see if I can get one of my pilots to come down earlier. Or come up earlier, I should say. They're all coming from LA. I see more weather coming. The weather's coming in from the south today. So I think what we're going to see is one of those days when it rains, it stops, it rains, it stops, and then it rains like hell. The bad part is when it rains, gotta watch my tail here. I'll go down on an angle. The bad part is if it rains near the end of the day, because then they want you to dry it before nightfall. And sometimes it just rains just so late that you just don't have enough time to do it. And that's what I have a feeling I'm going to be up against today. I've already told one guy that I will not fly in a thunderstorm. The forecast is calling for severe thunderstorms between 4 and 9 p.m. this evening. Possibility of large hail. Just the kind of stuff you really don't want to hear. And then, of course, damaging winds. Now, if it's super windy, Mother Nature will do my job for me. I just gotta hope. I don't fly after dark. I will fly after sunset because it's not dark at sunset. The latest I think I've ever flown over Cherries was probably about 9:45. And the longest day of the year, the sun goes down around 9 p.m. And by 9:30, it's starting to get dark. But we were working hard to try to get everything as done as we could. And the guys who were flying for me actually lasted a little bit longer. I don't push guys. You know, I would never make somebody fly in conditions that I wouldn't fly in. I just wouldn't do it. It's just, you know, if I can't do it, it's not fair to expect them to do it. And we don't fly in darkness, we don't fly under wires, we don't fly in thunderstorms. So if all my guys were here now and we just had to drive these 2 orchards, I would just put a guy in every block. We would get done with it in no time. We would have been done with everything already. And you say, well, why don't you do that then? Well, the trouble is I'm only getting enough standby pay to pay for 1 person. And right now that person's me. So once I get, once more orchards come on contract, then I get more money in. And then I've got a lot of helicopters, but then I also have a lot of acreage. So if rain is widespread, then we've got a lot of stuff to cover. But if it's a localized rainstorm, like, you know, only these orchards got covered, and there's 4 of us, well, let's go do it. I don't, you know, I don't make guys sit on the ground when there's work to do. And the growers appreciate that, because in their minds, a lot of times, they feel like they're paying for 1 helicopter.
1 FTA traffic, Airport 12 is holding short of the critical ILS.
And what they're really getting, depending on the situation, they could be getting 2 or 3.
One FTA traffic, Airport 12 entering the critical ILS for Alpha 6, 1 FTA.
So those of you who are pilots, helicopter pilots, maybe new helicopter pilots, you probably realize that I'm flying
Airport 12 is holding short of Alpha 6 runway 12
airport.
and traffic.
Ground vehicles talking to each other. You probably realize that I'm flying in what a lot of people call the Deadman curve. It's the shaded area of the height velocity diagram.
1 FTA traffic, Airport 12 will be taking runway 12 visual runway inspection, 1 FTA.
What that diagram does is it attempts to explain the safe areas of operation and the, quote, unsafe areas of operation in the event of an engine failure. It's got nothing to do with how safe it is to fly. It only has to do with how safe it is to perform an auto rotation. So this particular flight regimen right now, I am 17 feet off the ground. I am flying 8 knots, is in the shaded area of the height velocity diagram. And what that means that if I were to have an engine failure right now, I would not be able to perform an auto rotation. But the crazier thing is, if I had an engine failure now and went down, obviously my rotor blade's going to go right through those trees. So my problem is not doing an auto rotation. My problem is the blades breaking off and possibly coming into the cabin. That's the bigger danger. And that's, you know, that's, I have to say, another reason why I fly over the aisles instead of over the trees. I feel that if I did have an engine failure, let's knock wood, everybody, that I would come down onto the ground, possibly upright, as opposed to coming down into a tree and being inverting, going sideways, you know, and having it, instead of having an ugly accident, instead of having a super ugly crash, I would have an ugly crash. Does it really matter in the long run? No. Alright, so we got 2 more passes. 1, 2 more passes in this one, then we do the one by the barn, which is smaller, and then we go get fuel. If the trees weren't so wet, they're actually not that wet.
Airport 12 is clear of the active runway at Alpha 1, 1 FTA.
Probably because the blower's been through here. But if the trees were not very wet, or they were younger, then I could do, or they were closer together, which is not likely, but possible, I would do every 3rd row instead. I think this is the boss here in the gray pickup. Let's see. Yep, that's him. It always looks like he's ready to go bowling. Oh, he doesn't. Brian, I was kidding. It's very tempting to just follow him up the hill, but I won't. He's probably going to watch me do the other block now. I do see water on the trees. When the sun hits it just right, you can see it glinting off the drops. I can't go all the way. Look how close I can get here. I think that's close enough. Alright, the one by the barn. Here's the barn. And this would be it right here. Okay. No obstacles here. One of their orchard blocks has a row of, has wires. We're going to right diagonally through the damn thing. So in that case, my row ended, so I kind of shifted over to the other road. These wires are across the road. Let me see how close they are. I think I can go to the end here. Tall tree. So you might ask, well, why don't they want all their cherry trees dried? Why only these blocks? And the reason has to do with how the cherries mature. Different varieties of cherries mature at different times. And of course it also has to do with the elevation, but you know, obviously this orchard's pretty much all at the same elevation. So that doesn't really affect this. But I might be drying this variety here now, but this variety at a much higher elevation, 1,000 feet higher, maybe I'd be drying them a month from now. And these guys might even be picked by then. So it's the combination of the different varieties of cherries and the elevations of the orchards that determine my season, the length of my season. And if I were willing to travel further south, for example, down by the Dalles, you know, Oregon, Columbia River area, the Gorge area, Hood River, their season is earlier. Pasco, Tri-Cities, their season's earlier. Mattawa is a tiny bit earlier. There's a little overlap. Mattawa's also south of here. They're also on the river, closer to the river, so they get milder winters. And then if I were, you know, after this season's done, if I continued north into Omak and Okanagan and those places, then I would have a later season. But I have high elevation orchards here, so that keeps me pretty late. Last year I didn't finish till the 25th of August, which is really late. Also, the trees don't grow at the same rate all the time, or don't ripen. The fruit doesn't ripen at the same rate. And that's got to do with the fact that if you got a warm spell, the trees are like, oh my gosh, we gotta hurry up. It's nice and warm. Let's make these fruit ripe. And if it's not, just see where I'm supposed to stop on this one. Oh. I don't know if that's part of it or not. I think it is. Yeah, it is. Looking at the map there. And then if we get a cold spell, well then the trees all slow down. These trees are definitely older than the ones further in this direction, off to my right. These look really old trees. Wow. You can tell by the thickness of the trunks, not like any other tree. They prune the heck out of these trees, so they don't ever get really tall. Can't get too tall for the ladders. This property used to have a winery on it. The barn behind me was where the winery was. I don't go sideways. Okay. And they closed it down. They still make wine. I just don't think they sell it. I don't think they sell it to the public, or they certainly don't sell it at the winery tasting room. They had a problem with really abusive people. It's a really nice setting, the winery. It's got a gazebo. It still has a gazebo, but there's no winery there now. You know, nice views and all that. And what was happening is that people were coming, and they would bring a picnic lunch, buy a bottle of wine, and then they would spend, watch out for the wires next to me here. Then they would spend a couple hours, you know, taking up space outside, you know, where other people couldn't sit. And they would drink their bottle of wine, have their picnic lunch. The kids would run amok all over the place. And then they would leave their trash behind for somebody else to clean up. And it was just, you know, you can't have your place of business occupied by people for, you know, 2-3 hours, leaving their trash behind when they're only buying one bottle of wine. So, you know, it made it difficult for them to stay profitable, make it difficult for them to have a worthwhile business there. So they shut it down. And people need to be considerate of small business owners and think about things like that. You know, when you go to a person's place of business, you're using their assets. And you really need to compensate them properly for their use of assets. Anyway, that's my soapbox. I'll get off now. I'm almost done with this, and then I'm done. Go get some gas and go home. And then next storm looks like it's brewing on the horizon. I'll try to put that other camera mount on for in different views. One more row. This little bit here. Guess we'll go right over the top of them. Okay, and that's it. Wenatchee area traffic, helicopter 7534 Delta is going to be overflying 3 lakes inbound for the airport for fuel. So, that is it for this flight. I should have brought my new little 360 camera. It would have been perfect for the flight from the airport back to base, getting a 360 view. I'm going to be doing some of those, not very many, and they're all going to be short, just so people have the kind of have the experience, the virtual experience of flying with me. Put the camera right here, right where your head would be. So we'll see. We'll see if I can get that together. I've got a whole summer of cherry season, and I have lots of flights between here and the airport, between Orchards and the airport, so I'm sure I'll get it together at least once. Wow, he tore out all of he had trees out there, he tore them all out. At Wenatchee Airport, helicopter 7534 Delta is overflying, over out by the FBO on the south side, going to be crossing the runway, landing for fuel. Just a little momentarily distracted by those motorcycles. They do motorcycle training down there. You know, the stay-at-home order doesn't expire until tomorrow, and this whole area, nobody seems to care that it's even turned on. So, so welcoming committee. Look at all these guys coming out here. Hello guys, you know I'm gonna land there, right? Oh, this is weird. So this is brand new self-serve. I landed here once before in another video. Oh, a little bit breezy right here. And the trick is to get as close as I can. Whoa. Wow, the winds are really weird right here. He's giving me the evil eye. He's like, how close are you coming? I sure hope that's not down. Is it broken? Is it broken? Is he fixing it? That is like the worst thing in the world, is during cherry season not to be able to get gas. It looks like I'm gonna have to use my own little tank again as a backup. So that's a flight. If you're not a subscriber, what the heck are you waiting for? Subscribe. You see it says subscribe right here. I have to move this sticker. I can't cover anything important though. And more videos. They won't all be this long, I promise. There's a whole bunch there already. You could look at them. They're shorter. There's more cherry drying. There's more other stuff. And subscribe. Consider becoming a channel member. Talk yourself into buying a t-shirt or a hat. I got to come up with $250,000 by October, so come on guys, help me out here. Help me out. Overhaul's coming up. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.